Today I'm going to be talking to you about a new binding technique that I'm calling Stitch in the Ditch binding, and this technique was inspired from two quilty friends. I have changed it up a little bit to make it my own and make it work for what I want it to do, but it is an idea that I got from fellow quilters. Here's my problem with binding. We're talking about machine binding, and when you machine bind a quilt, it is way faster, but you get this line around the perimeter of your quilt where you sew this down, so it pops up right back on your quilt top. So I've sewn my quilts this way for years and years and years and was completely fine, and then all of a sudden I saw it in a picture that I took, and it just suddenly hated it and had to completely change my method. What I'm going to be teaching you today is stitch in the ditch binding. I'm still stitching right here, but instead of flipping it over, I'm just keeping it on this side of my quilt, and I'm stitching in the ditch. I'm using binding clips to help me, so you'll want to get a pack of binding clips or something to hold this part of the quilt down. But this is really cool, and it's pretty much the same speed. You just got to be a little bit more mindful while you do it. So let's get into the tutorial. So we start this method of binding exactly the way we start the other one, which is I've gone ahead and sewn my binding onto my quilt top. I'm using a 2-inch binding. Then I'm going to just flip the binding around and pin it with my little binder clips. We're going to stay sewing on this top though. So go ahead and add a few binding clips. I've only got 10 binding clips, so that's all I've used, but I've just gone along here and rolled that binding over just like that. So we're staying on the top of the quilt. You're gonna lift your presser foot, and you wanna make sure your needle is going right there in the ditch. So I'm gonna start out with a few back spaces, and then I'm going to start going. And this is a little bit slower because we do have to make sure it stitches in the ditch. And I'm just going to keep doing this all the way around. Okay, so when I'm down to 2 of the binder clips left, I just go ahead and start re-clipping. The only thing that's important here is that you be consistent. So if you're being really tight with your fold, you want to be really tight the whole time. If you're being a little bit looser, you want to be loose the whole time. That way this part always ends up looking the same.